All right, so let's jump right into today's main topic. Should you start a CSA your first year farming or market gardening? Well, my initial response is going to be, it depends. Like most things, this is very, very contextual based on quite a few factors, but I do believe that for this particular business model, you should be able to check yes to at least these 3 boxes at a minimum before starting a CSA. But before we talk about those boxes, I think we should discuss what is a CSA and why you might want to go this route if you're not familiar with it already. And I believe this topic is important. I did a video on my YouTube channel about a year ago regarding farmers markets versus CSA, breaking down the differences between the two. And I do get a lot of response from viewers in regards to how good of an idea the CSA sounds. And it is, and it can be a great idea and a great farm model. However, there are definitely some things to consider before you jump right in head first when it comes to a CSA. So what is a CSA? Well, CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So a CSA program is basically a prepaid weekly veggie box program that the customer purchases at the beginning of the season and then is delivered fresh vegetables every week for the duration of the season, whether it be a 12-week or 15-week or 20-week CSA. Every farm might be a little bit different. We run a 15-week CSA when we run our program throughout the summer. And it's great because it gives revenue to the farmer at the beginning of the season so he can buy his compost and his seeds and tools, whatever he may need for that growing season. And it ensures food security for the customer, which these days people are concerned about that. So it's a win-win for both parties. The farmer grows a wide variety of vegetables, so there's something a little different every week for the customer. And the customer pays a set amount at the beginning of the season for the entire 15 weeks. So it's very tempting because as a farmer, you actually need less customers because your customers are essentially buying in bulk. So instead of needing 50 customers or 100 customers at the farmer's market, you could make just as much throughout the season, say 20 to 25 CSA members with family shares. So it's very tempting for new farmers because it does create a revenue right off the bat. However, there is a bad side, right? People paid you for that, and therefore you are expected. And there are many, many things that can be out of your control. There are a lot of variables when it comes to growing food, especially outside. And crop failure is a biggie. So there are a lot of things out of your control, and if you're a brand new farmer, there are definitely things that you don't know. Even when you do know, even when you've been at it for a few years, you still have to battle the weather, pests, the wildlife, and have action plans for all of those in place. Always looking at infrastructure and labor shortages, especially when you're building out your farm the first year or 2 or 3 or 4. So the learning curve is huge. The key to growing a successful farm business, or any business for that matter, is keeping your customers happy. It's customer satisfaction and trust. If you don't have that, you don't have a business, regardless of what you're growing or selling. So that's very important, and in all honesty, you don't know what you don't know. So because of that, I suggest making sure that you can check yes to all of these boxes before embarking on the journey of starting and running a CSA. The first box would be, have you ever grown food before? Semi-commercially at least, for yourself or for somebody else. Did you work on somebody else's farm who had a CSA or who grew a variety of crops, so you have some experience at least in growing the vegetables, growing the food. That's the first one. And even if it wasn't commercially, if you typically grow a large garden and you've been doing that for years, you're probably qualified. It might just take some extra planning. But that's the first box. Have you ever grown food before consistently in a large quantity? Box number 2 is, have you ever grown food in the ground you're proposing to grow on? Meaning, is this an existing gardening space, or is this a brand new property that you're just leasing or purchasing that you've never grown food on before? And I believe this is extremely important because the soil can vary greatly, even in the same garden space. I'm running 35, 50-foot beds, and I've got 3 different blocks, and every single block is different, okay? The soil structure is just a little bit different. So that can have a great impact on what you're able to grow, what you need to put into the soil so that you can grow successfully. And if you've never grown on that soil, honestly, even if you have a soil test done, you really don't know. We just finished up our 3rd year in the market garden, and we're still learning lessons and figuring it out. So I think that is a box that really should be checked. Have you ever grown on that ground specifically? If not, there's a high probability that there's probably going to be some surprises in store. The 3rd box, I would say, is, do you already have a customer base? It doesn't have to be a large customer base, but do you have a customer base who already knows you and trusts you and is willing to put out a few $100s at the beginning of the season and put their faith in you that you'll be able to deliver on that promise? And honestly, even if this is just your first year running a CSA and you've been growing for a year or two, I would still start with a fairly small member count, 10 to 20 CSA members, just to get the feel of things, because it is completely different than growing for a farmer's market or for your farm stand. And if you don't have that your first year, because you are new to the space, that's when I would suggest spending time in the community, at the farmers markets, setting up a stand at your farm, whatever the case may be, so you can slowly build a loyal customer base, really focusing on quality of your vegetables, customer satisfaction, period. Those are our 2 main focuses always, and have been since day one, and I think that's why we were able to build a fairly loyal customer base right off the bat. You don't have to have a large operation if you're putting out the best product. I believe if you can check yes to these 3 questions, you will greatly reduce the risk of failure and increase the probability of success running a CSA. So if you can check yes to all 3 of those, I say heck yeah, go for it. And if not, I would say no worries. You can still start a farm market garden. You can still even grow for a CSA. You just need to adjust the plan a little bit. Rather than it being a prepaid, if you like the idea of doing weekly veggie boxes with a variety of veggies, you can still grow with the same crop plan as if you were running a CSA, and then you can sell your weekly veggies on a week-to-week basis and having them pay for it at that point, rather than taking their money up front long before you even grow the food. So you take a lot of that weight off your shoulders. In reality, you'll still be able to build a customer base if you're growing good food and delivering good customer service. So it's not that you can't, I think you just need to adjust the model a little bit to a week-to-week rather than a prepaid at the beginning of the season. But get out there, get involved, like I said, hit the farmers markets, meet some new customers, meet the other farmers in your area. There's definitely opportunity networking with other farmers as well. So that's what I would say if somebody were to ask me, should you start a CSA your first year? And it's a depends kind of answer. All right, remember y'all, good decisions come from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions.